Tell me what your life was like before you died.
I was a really angry person, self-confidence issues, self-esteem issues. I wasn't happy. I pretended to be happy, but I really wasn't deep down, not comfortable in my own skin. You know, I had ups and downs like everybody, but those things really kind of consumed me at a behind the scenes kind of level. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I've always been interested in spirituality. I went to school for philosophy, so I studied different philosophies from around the world, and just always been fascinated by different spiritual teachings and things like that. Just always been a kind of a curious person. Just things would get under my skin and irritate me, and then I would just explode. But I mean, just in general, I was just kind of had a lot of angry feelings. So I think it started back when I was sexually molested when I was 8 years old. So that kind of like was a chink in the armor. It affected my self-esteem, and I was made fun of when I was a kid in school. But it's just that I had resentments to people, and all of that stuff over the years just kind of built up under the surface, not even necessarily in my conscious awareness. So when I was 21, I was in a pretty bad fight and was kicked in the head multiple times by a guy with steel-toed boots. And I went to the doctor after the experience, and he said that if he had put 3 more pounds of pressure behind the last kick, that his boot would have gone into my brain. And I wouldn't have been here anymore. So when that happened, I lost consciousness, and it was just total nothingness, just a complete blackout. It's hard to explain. It's easy to say, oh, it was nothing, but how often do we really experience nothing? It was just the absence of anything. Total blackout. After that, I started questioning my reality and my identity and what am I here for? So I discovered that I had a love of learning. And at that point, I started this educational journey. So I dropped out in 9th grade, by the way, because I hated school, and I hated the teachers. I hated the students, and I wanted nothing to do with the institution. So I left in the 9th grade and went to work. And then from there, I discovered, wow, like I actually like to learn things. I was reading book after book, listening to cassette after cassette and CD after CD of different self-development, psychology, spirituality, and kind of went on a binge and discovered that I loved it. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and sacroiliac spondylitis when I was 14. And Crohn's disease, for those of you who don't know, it's like this inflammatory disease of the bowel. And then the arthritis was like throughout my entire body. So I was prescribed opiate painkillers at age 15, and then ended up getting really dependent. And then I would take too much of the drug and then have to find more. Not to say that it was easy, because I was in this pattern of taking too much of the medicine before my prescription would fill. And then I'd go into withdrawals, and I'd have to wait to get more from somebody or for my prescription to fill. It was just a miserable existence. At Vassar, I had a back surgery, and then that increased my pain level. I ran out of my medication and got some heroin. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this heroin, and it felt good, and it took away my pain. But another reason I was using more than I was prescribed is because of the emotional turmoil that I was in all the time. Always in the background. I was in a pattern of taking this drug, and the drug would numb the emotion, and it would replace those negative feelings or dark feelings or whatever you want to call them. It would replace those with feelings of ease and feeling like I can think straight. I can concentrate on my homework without wondering, gee, I wonder if that person thinks I'm an idiot. It quieted the noise. I was in my mother's apartment at the time. I was just full of anxiety because I was going through withdrawals. I'm just waiting for the guy to show up. Is he ever gonna get here? Checking the clock. Like, it had already been days that I'd been in withdrawals, and I was just miserable. Finally, the guy shows up, brings me the heroin, and I did it, and finally the nightmare's over, and I'm feeling, I can just relax, and I can think straight, and I don't have to be into this inner turmoil. Finally, it's over, and I can just relax. And it felt good. Next thing I know, I realized I was dying, and all of a sudden I'm outside of my body. and I'm looking down at myself and I'm wondering, like, what was the point of my life? That was the first question. Yeah. And then became aware of a presence in the room, and I didn't see anything. I didn't see like a person standing there or some kind of a spirit or anything. I just became aware of a presence. I was given like a vision, and there I was, dead, a corpse, discolored with pus running out of my mouth. So then next thing I know, everything changes again. I'm back in the apartment, standing there, and I hear a voice, and it was just a very matter-of-fact voice, and it wasn't like a booming like God voice. It wasn't a whisper. It was just a very matter-of-fact voice that said, "Now your life is over and you wasted it." It was like a kick in the stomach. And I started to panic. I'm like, what? Like, this can't happen. This cannot be happening. Please let me live. Please, please. I will do anything. I will do anything to make this not happen. I didn't want to have my mother go through that pain. But anyways, I just begged, and next thing I know, bam, I'm back in my body, gasping for breath. I went to the hospital for 7 days and had to learn how to tie my shoelaces again. That's how bad it was. I couldn't think, I couldn't move. It was just terrible. It was just hell, pain, emotional turmoil, trying to just even learn how to tie my shoelaces again. There were no like real spiritual type experiences during that process. And I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. And I had to like figure out how to deal with my emotions, how to reprogram my mind, and how to create another reality from scratch. So I went through a step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, which I wasn't even really an alcoholic. It helped tremendously. I went through the steps and I gave it my all. Like, I put 100% in, because I knew that I wasn't going to make it if I didn't find a solution, and I needed a solution. I did the steps, and a little while after that, I actually had a profound spiritual experience that was like completely transformative and really confirmed that I was on the right path and that I wasn't crazy. I have help, and they're helping me. And I'll just tell you what happened. I was having a hard time and was praying a lot. I was in my shower and all of a sudden felt a light like descending through the ceiling, and it came down, and I was like, what is going on? And then the light just penetrated me and pierced every aspect of my being. Like, I was thinking of all these things from my past, like, I'm not worthy of this. Like, this being is just too powerful. Why is it here, and why me? And the light just went through all of those thoughts like they were nothing. And it went into my body, and it just pierced every aspect of me. And I felt this profound peace and a profound love and an appreciation for who I was, despite all the things that I had done wrong. It's like those things didn't even matter to this entity. So that helped me a lot. And when I had that near-death experience, I had no money in the bank. I was living in a crappy little apartment, more than broke, like less than broke, false friends, no vehicle, full of fear, negativity, self-doubt, limiting thinking. I was a piece of work. Not somebody you would want your daughter with, put it that way. But, you know, I had a good side. I had a loving side. I was a compassionate person. I'd give you the shirt off my back. I gave too much. People took advantage of me. So, that's where I went. And where I am now is that here I am speaking to you on next level soul, and I'm comfortable. I knew it was a near-death experience, but afterwards I didn't really research it much. I delved into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I started going to meetings, and I started volunteering in the community. And then, I want to just follow up to give people more hope, is that, here I am on next level soul, and I'm confident, but I bought a new car, I bought a house, I married the love of my life, and I have a son, Daniel, who's 5 months old, and I am experiencing fulfillment in life. So what happened? Back then, didn't have that. I didn't have that sense of fulfillment. I was always trying to get it, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't find it. So dealing with the past and dealing with the future and the feelings about those effectively, methodically, with concentration and I can't let this thing take me down. I've got to find a solution because I don't want my mother to find my dead body. That gave me the fuel I needed, or the drive to push through the difficulty. It wasn't easy dealing with the resentments, facing the fears, and the self-esteem issues, becoming my own best friend instead of my own worst enemy. I was in my 4th step in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's the step where you basically you figure out like where all of your resentments are, where all your fears are, and you write it out. So the first one on my list was being sexually molested. So I got myself a sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they review that list that you create with you, and they show you how to deal with the resentments. I had no idea how this was going to go. So I went in and met with my sponsor and did that first one. And I'm like, I'm resentful at this babysitter who sexually molested me when I was 8. And he said, okay, I'm really sorry that happened to you. That is terrible and should never happen to anyone. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered if he had been sexually molested, the person who molested you? I said, no, I never considered that. He said, well, a lot of people who sexually molest other people have been molested themselves. I said, I never really considered that. So he said, if he had been sexually molested himself, would that make his action more understandable? I said, I guess, because it would make sense that, if you had been sexually molested, maybe you would molest somebody else. Like that would be maybe a cause, right? So, the point is that I never considered his feelings. In 25 years, I just hated this person and never took a step back outside of myself to wonder, well, what was this person going through that they did that to me? In other words, I was just thinking of myself as a victim, the pain that I went through, and I had this happen to me. It's normal, but I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to be angry at someone at that level. So how am I going to get over this thing? Definition of living a good life is finding inner fulfillment, like inner peace, a place, like getting to the point and finding a place, a calm amidst the storm, and getting to that core would be what I'm striving for. And I'm helping others do the same. Finding that inner center where you can't be tossed around, and finding something that you really love doing.